Let's hope that no one is hurt and no one is injured and it doesn't escalate from here. Look at the flag. Yeah, Guy, I see
there it is.
You pointing
Mexican
it out.
flag can,
This is criminal activity that I hope people are held accountable for. And I'm talking about the riots right here.
Where are the cops?
Now, I want to show a clip of Bishop Barron basically being asked about the denigration in society. So let's go ahead and watch what he has to say. And then I want to reflect on what he is saying in a general sense and apply it specifically to the raids or riots that are going on in California.
Certain things that are happening right now, for me personally, it's a bit confusing to see just kind of the way things are going. And the reason why it's confusing to me is because by all objective measures, at least material measures, things have been phenomenal. Yet polls were showing that Americans were more divided than ever. Depression seemed to be on the rise, anxiety on the rise, lots of mental health metrics seem to be getting worse, especially among the youth. And I know a lot of people talk about the answers being found maybe in more wealth, more material stuff. And it just, things seem to be worse than ever. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. You're somebody I turn to.
Yeah, good. Sal, thanks for having me on, first of all. You raise a lot of interesting issues there. Here's a first reaction. I'll speak now out of the spiritual tradition. Even if all things are going well, and in the things that we can measure, like employment, like income, that sort of thing, there's more to life than that. And so it doesn't surprise me really at all if depression could be on the rise, even as these material benefits are on the rise. Because people need more than that. And what's also on the rise, you and I have talked about this a lot, is secularism. What's on the rise is a bracketing of religion. And I can guarantee you that will lead people down a road to depression. No matter how prosperous we are materially, if we're not prospering spiritually, we're going to walk down the road toward depression. So that doesn't really surprise me. We got to be attentive to a greater matrix than just the economic and the political. Second observation is, let's face it, this past year, the race issue again presented itself as a real danger in our society. What I mean there is from the beginning, there's been this problem of racial injustice. I mean, without going so far as to say it's the original sin of America, I mean, from the beginning, with slavery and coming up even after slavery's ended, in decades and decades of oppression, the civil rights movement, which was a huge step forward, but then that too followed by a sort of stubbornly enduring, racial oppression. So I don't deny that for a minute. Now, it's never right to express your anger in violence, but I understand where some of the frustration societally is coming from. Now, maybe we can talk more about this as we go, but I mean, I'm not at all excited about the sort of woke ideology that has come to dominate this discussion. But that there's a problem, I don't deny for a minute, and that there are these tensions that are really, they're moral problems. So again, to go back to your opening observation, even if we're flourishing at the material level, which we are in many ways, still, if there are moral and spiritual deficits in a society, that's going to lead to all sorts of psychological and spiritual problems.
So what's fascinating about this clip is that it talks about the disconnect between material prosperity and spiritual vitality. You see, we live in a country that is immensely wealthy, and I thought it was interesting that this podcast host is bringing this up. We live in a country that has immense wealth and opportunity. We have all sorts of technological advancements, policies in place that help us to create societies that flourish and function well. And yet, beneath all of it, we still see humans rioting. We see people storming buildings, setting fires to things, clashing with law enforcement. The question for me is, why does this still happen? And I think it's a brilliant question made by this podcast host. Even in a society where things seem to be going better than anywhere else, why is there still chaos? Why do things still happen the way that they do? And I think that the answer theologically, as often put forth by Bishop Barron, and I think is connected to what he is saying within this clip, is that we have sinful and restful and restless souls. You see, our hearts are fallen. I think these riots were sparked by real emotion. I think that the reason why these riots are happening is because families are being separated. People that have lived in the country for years are being forced to leave. Now, and there's many of them that pay taxes and they've raised children and they're doing great things for their community. Well, obviously, there's others that are not. You see, there's a strict interpretation of immigration law that's causing these riots. And I'll be honest, I think it's felt kind of cold, cruel, and a little bit inhumane. And I understand why people are upset, why they think that justice needs to be served for the poor and the vulnerable, juxtaposed to the powerful that might be doing corrupt political moves. So that's one side of this scale that I think we need to balance. And I think we need to also see that their grief is real, their fear is real. But the question is, what do we do when things like this happen? Do we allow our emotions to cause us to sin? So, sin doesn't just feed off hatred, it feeds off sorrow and desperation. It takes pain and twists it, redirecting it not towards justice or mercy, but towards violence and destruction. You see, when people, even if they have a reason to be upset, storm facilities, burn federal buildings, and attack local police officers, that's not a holy outcry. That's not a great way to approach this. That really is a spiritual breakdown. Jesus said in Mark 7:21 and 23, from for from within, out of the heart of men, come evil thoughts. All these evil things come from within and they defile a person. So that's the part that I don't think we want to admit or really wrestle with. That even if we believe our cause is righteous, even if we believe that we have been treated unjustly when we should be treated justly, our actions can still be wicked. Even if the immigration system needs reform, and I think all of us can see that it does, the response must be restrained by virtue, not unleashed in rage. You see, imagine someone about to lose their home. It's devastating. I think we've all been there. But what if instead of seeking help or appealing through legal means, they burn the neighborhood down in protest? We wouldn't applaud that. We'd call it exactly what it is, destructive. And that's what sin does with suffering. It convinces us that destruction is justified, when in reality, it's not. Jesus said that this is the judgment, that light has come into the world and people love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. And I think, regardless of which side you tip yourself on the scale, I'm not so sure it's coming from light, but coming from darkness. That's what we're seeing. The riots aren't just a political cry, they're a spiritual mirror, and vice versa. What the strict enforcement of the immigration policy is not a just political move, it really is a spiritual manipulation. And the reflection isn't flattering. You see, all of us have to look in the mirror. So, yes, we should care for immigrants, obviously, because all of us were once and are immigrants, if not here in our home country, wherever that may be, in our heavenly abode that is to come. We're sojourners, journeying on our way towards what God is ultimately going to bring about. Therefore, we should wrestle with laws and compassion and justice, but we can't pretend that riots and righteousness are the way to move things forward. They're not. They're the fruit of depravity. And until Christ changes the human heart, no policy, no protest, no passion will fix what's broken. And I think that those are things that we need to be thinking about when we see what's going on in California today. All right, that's all I have for this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Remember that Christianity is Christ, and without him, there is no Christianity. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.